My name is Amy Fuller. I'd like to welcome you to Auburn Public Theater and to the State of the City and County presentations. I'm so glad you could join us. I would like to thank today's sponsors, our diamond sponsors, Tompkins Community Bank, Lions National Bank, and Lakeside Enterprise. And then we do have some event sponsors. Our headline sponsor is 2+4 Property Management. Breakfast sponsor is Markert USA. And then the coffee host sponsor is Hunt Real Estate. We have a number of elected officials in attendance today. As I call your name, please raise your hand and hold the applause, if you would, until the end. From the City of Auburn, we have Mayor Jimmy Giantino. We have City Councilors Christina Clarko, Ginny Kent, and Rhoda Overstreet Wilson. From the county, we have the County Legislative Chair Aileen McNabb Coleman. In Cayuga County Legislatures, Stephanie DeVito, Heidi Nightingale, and Tom Winslow. And the Mayor of Aurora, Jim Orman. Is there anybody I missed? All right, you can applaud now. The format for this morning is the city will get things started with remarks from Mayor Giantino and then the city manager, followed by the Cayuga County Legislative Chair and the Cayuga County Manager. We will have questions at the end of both, after they both presented. It's my pleasure to introduce the City of Auburn Mayor, Jimmy Giantino.
Good morning, everyone. It's actually a pretty good morning. I only got 3 calls blaming me for the weather. I'm pretty sure I know just about everybody in the room, but for those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Jimmy Giantino, and I have the honor and privilege of serving the people of Auburn as their mayor. Thank you for taking the time to be here today and for allowing me a few minutes to speak with you about the city of Auburn and what I view as a very bright future. This morning, I'm going to highlight some of the major initiatives that have taken place so far this year. It is the first time in 16 years that there is a new mayor presenting the state of the city. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank former Mayor Mike Quill for his service, dedication, and leadership. He set the example for public service, and we are all better because of him. We inaugurated a new city government on January 1st of this year. Newly elected councilors Rhoda Overstreet Wilson and Christina Clarko joined incumbent councilors Terry Cuddy and Ginny Kent and myself. And we know who's in attendance. Thank you for being here today. The transition has gone extremely well. That is due in large part to those members of city staff who have assisted with the onboarding of the new members of council and briefing them on all matters related to city government. My transition from a city councilor to mayor has gone well. Again, this is because of the assistance of city staff, but also because I had an excellent mentor in Mike Quill. I was fortunate to work with him and learn from him over the past 8 years. And during the transition, he was accessible and he included me in the day-to-day operations and decisions, and I am grateful for that. The swearing in of the new council marked 2 very important historic firsts in the city of Auburn. The election of Dr. Rhoda Overstreet Wilson marks the first African-American member of city government. Christina Clarko and Dr. Rhoda Overstreet Wilson joining Ginny Kent marks the first female majority on the Auburn City Council. I mentioned these 2 milestones because they are historic and because these 3 individuals deserve to be recognized. Running for office is hard work and it takes courage. I also want to thank them. Because they took the chance and ran, and because they worked hard to get elected, we now have a city government that is more representative of the people we serve. March is Women's History Month, and in January we hosted a ceremony at City Hall, at which we honored the first female ever elected to city government, Ann Bunker, who sadly passed away in 2023. Ann was first elected in 1989 and served 2 terms as a city councilor. She was a trailblazer and a champion for all people. She was the first, and she paved the way for the 7 other women who have since been elected to Auburn city government. Those 7 women leaders were in attendance for the ceremony, and Ann's portrait now hangs on the wall in council chambers where it belongs. One of the responsibilities of mayor and council are to nominate and appoint members of the public to serve on our city boards and commissions. These boards and the citizens who serve perform a variety of functions that are very important to city operations. These members are volunteers and are often tasked with making difficult decisions related to planning, economic development, zoning, civil service, and even human rights. I want to personally thank the 100+ citizens who have accepted appointments to these various boards. I know there's a number of board members in attendance. Could you raise your hands? Since being elected, I've had the good fortune of appointing the following individuals to chair the following boards. Susan Martini is now the chair of the zoning board. This follows, I think, almost 20 years of service on the zoning board by Susan. I had the pleasure of reappointing Crystal Cosentino to chair the planning board, Reverend Robert Wilson to the Human Rights Commission, and the one and only Gwen Weber McLeod to chair Auburn Industrial Development Authority. I am thankful for their leadership, and I know they will serve the people of Auburn extremely well. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the men and women who make up the City of Auburn team. We have over 350 dedicated professionals who serve the people of Auburn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I want you to think for a moment about the range of services these folks provide us. Clean drinking water and sanitary sewers, safe housing, preventing crime and enforcing laws, refuse collection, plowing and repairing our roads, maintaining our parks, fire protection, and emergency medical response. Now, I want you to think for a minute, which one of these vital functions could we do without? And I'm pretty sure the answer is none of them. Our success as a city is through their hard work and dedication. The seal of the City of Auburn contains the words Pax et Labor, which is Latin for peace and labor. The two are vital to our continued success and prosperity. One of my goals as mayor is to establish a better working relationship with our counterparts in county government. I believe that we are stronger together, and there are a variety of issues that we can and should be collaborating on. One of those issues is economic development, and that work began week one. Chairperson Aileen McNabb Coleman and I have met multiple times to discuss our visions for economic development, and I can tell you this, we are in lockstep. I believe that as a city, county, and a region, we have tremendous economic opportunity in front of us. With construction at Micron set to begin late this year, we are in a prime position to benefit from that $100 billion investment. With a new partner in Alstom, the award of an $8.5 million Restore New York grant, and the reality of Micron coming to Central New York, we finally have an opportunity to see redevelopment at the former Elko and Bombardier facility. This all only happens if we get serious about how we are going to handle economic development. One thing is clear, the time for political posturing is over, and the time to get serious is now. We need to talk about and be serious about how much we're going to invest in economic development, how we're going to staff the agency responsible for economic development. And I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it 10 times. We have one opportunity to get this right, and it's our responsibility to make sure that happens. We owe it to the people who put us in these positions, we owe it to our children and grandchildren, and quite frankly, we owe it to ourselves. In 2018, Auburn was awarded the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. That $10 million infusion has resulted in several completed projects, the Rudolph Building, the CCC, Culinary Arts Institute, State Street Plaza, the Auburn Fire Station, Nick's Ride for Friends, and work here at Auburn Public Theater. Work continues on several other projects, the Seward House Museum Carriage House project, the West End Arts Campus, which will be a collaboration between the Schweinfurth and the Cayuga Museum. I was on the board of the Cayuga Museum many years ago, and this has been a vision for a long time. The DRI is going to allow that to happen. 22 East Genesee Street on East Hill, which will be mixed-use residential and commercial space, Willard Memorial Chapel, and our ongoing public art project. This grant application and the administration of it is another example of the remarkable service of our city staff. This work doesn't get done without our professional city staff. New York State recently introduced a new program called the Pro Housing Community Initiative. This is a certification program for local governments that are taking action to support housing growth. The City of Auburn initiated our application process back in January with a letter of intent and a subsequent council resolution, which passed 5-0. This program will allow us to receive scoring preference for certain state discretionary funding grants. This builds upon a year-long effort with our local Micron Housing Committee, started by former County Chair David Gould, Two of the things I most often hear are that we need to improve and expand our housing stock, and we need to increase the tax base. We are presented with an opportunity to do both, as we are in a prime position to become a bedroom community for Micron and its supporting industries. Much like economic development, we have to get serious about this, and at times, we are going to have to step outside of our comfort zone and not do things simply because that is the way we have always done them. The world is changing, and it's time we change with it. What is the most important issue we face? This is a question I am asked more than any other. I personally do not like to pick one issue as being more important than another because there are so many issues we face, most of them intertwined. But if I have to pick one, it is the long-term health and protection of Owasco Lake. If we lose Owasco Lake, we lose everything. First faced with a drinking water crisis in 2016, when cyanotoxins from harmful algal blooms infiltrated our finished water, our story locally has been one of immeasurable action and advocacy. This effort has been composed of many partners. It's not just the city of Auburn. It's not just Cayuga County. It's not just the town of Owasco. It's all of us working together. And we have set the example for other communities facing similar issues. I just went to NICOM in February, and I can tell you we are not the only community facing this crisis, but we are on the front lines of it. Despite these efforts, we find ourselves at a tipping point, due in large part to inaction and irresponsible decisions by the state of New York. I know that I probably took some people off guard by saying that, but that is the truth, and the truth needs to be spoken. We recently took the unprecedented step of initiating a lawsuit against several state agencies due to their careless handling and complete disregard for our newly revised watershed rules and regulations. This is a process that was encouraged by the state of New York. The state of New York participated in that process. It took 3 years, countless public meetings, input from every stakeholder in this county. I want to thank the town of Owasco and Aula for joining us in this important fight. I also want to thank environmental law firm Earth Justice for believing in us and taking up our cause. Our work on the 9-element plan continues. Our advocacy for total maximum daily load continues because that is what is required by law. And I want to thank Councilor Ginny Kent. She is our city representative on the Owasco Lake Watershed Management Council. She serves us well, and her efforts are greatly appreciated. At tonight's City Council meeting, we will begin our annual budget process, and a component of that process and our overall budget is a funding stream from the state of New York known as Aid and Incentive to Municipalities, or AIM funding. This is the only unrestricted source of funding we receive, and it is vital to us delivering the basic essential services each Auburnian relies on. This specific program was started under former Governor Pataki, and it was intended to be increased annually between 2.5% and 7.5%, depending on how each municipality handled their property tax increase that year. Unfortunately, the exact opposite has occurred. It was cut back in 2009 and has remained flat ever since. As a result, the city of Auburn has been shortchanged by millions of dollars. I want to tell you something to put this in perspective. Mike Quill was mayor for 16 years. He went through 16 city budgets without a single increase from the state of New York. And under his leadership and the hard work of city staff, we've been able to maintain the basic services that you all rely on, despite the fact that the state of New York does not assist us with this. Local governments across the state have advocated tirelessly every year for a necessary increase. Unfortunately, it has fallen on deaf ears. This year, the governor proposed another budget with yet no increase to AIM funding. This is extremely discouraging as this current governor came from local government. We thought that finally we had that partner that we needed. The good news is we have a great partner in our state senator, Rachel May. She's been a tireless advocate for this specific issue. She has introduced legislation to hopefully correct it finally, once and for all. The good news is also that both the Assembly and the Senate have added increases to their one-house budgets. We will know in approximately 2 weeks where we stand. People often ask me, how can we help? What can I do? If you have 5 minutes between now and April 1st, call the governor's office. and let her know that we want the money that we send to the state of New York to come back to our municipality so that we can pay the people who provide us basic services. Before I close, I want to thank Steve Selvik and Chuck Mason for putting this presentation together. I also want to acknowledge Chuck Mason and Rhonda Miller for the tireless efforts on their part to keep me in line and on track. It is not an easy job, and they do very well at it. It is my good fortune to work with a tremendous partner and colleague, and quite frankly, human being, in Jeff Dygert. He's been city manager now a little over 8 years. He has been a gift to the city. He has brought a new energy and focus and approach to being city manager. Most of you know he was a fireman and a fire chief. And what he's done is he's brought that first responder attitude to the office of city manager. The other thing he's done is he's empowered our city staff to do what they're good at because they're professionals and it's their jobs. He allows them to do their jobs. And if you look at the progress that we've experienced over the last 8 years, that's a major component of it. I did not know Jeff Dygert personally before we hired him for this position. But in the last 8 years, I've grown to call him a friend, and I'm thankful for that. So without further ado, Mr. Jeff Dygert.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the chamber for setting this up and doing all that you do every year, and great attendance. So thank you for everybody that's here, taking the time to see what's going on in the city. And thank you to Steve Selvik, who I think is up there somewhere flipping slides. He's the one that put this together and does so pretty much every year for us. So thank you, Steve, for that. And thank you to all of our city staff and our department heads for coordinating and implementing projects highlighted here today. And the delivery of all those day-to-day services that the community expects and deserves. I want to just go through a few things here. We're not going to have certainly time to touch on all of the things that our city provides to the community, but I wanted to hit some highlights from the last 12 months or so. So something that has happened over the last couple of years is the city reinvigorated a summer recreation program. It's held for 6 weeks between July and August, and it is focused mostly on 3 main parks in the city: Lincoln Park, Clifford Park, and Casey Park, with some outreach to some of the other parks and playgrounds throughout the city as well. It's focused on children ages 6 to 14 and includes a variety of activities. So there's physical activity and sports and things like that, but there's a kids safety program for bicycle use. There's a culinary program, which has been an unbelievable success of this, the overall summer rec program. And our plans are to continue the program and expand it again this summer. And it's a great use of all of our city parks and playgrounds, many of which have been reinvested in over the last half a dozen years or so. Next up, our urban forestry program. That's been a very busy program over the last couple of years. We have a professional crew for the city that is focused on urban forestry. Most of what your interactions with them might be is them probably blocking traffic on a street while they deal with a tree. And over the last couple of years, as we dealt with an issue with a little bug called the emerald ash borer, we had to remove most of or all of the emerald or the ash trees in the city of Auburn to the tune of about 1,300 trees over the last couple of years. Major impact. Over the last year, the last couple of years, those trees were removed, the stumps were removed, and that's all on top of just the everyday items that happen that need to be taken care of in the city's right-of-ways. Last year, the city planted about 150 new trees, and we were awarded about $1 million in grant funding to plant trees for the next 5 years. So we're gonna, as we remove some of these diseased and dilapidated trees, we will be replacing them, and it's going to change the look of some neighborhoods. This year, we're expecting to tackle approximately 500 Norway maples that are also suffering. So I've mentioned briefly some park projects. The most recent project at Casey Park is the skate park. You may remember in past years, we revitalized and rebuilt the Casey Park facility and the ice making equipment and reinvested in the pool. This past year, staff was able to secure significant funding from a variety of different sources, including some of our local foundations, to reconstruct a skate park at Casey Park. That construction started in September, completed in November. There's still some things going on down there for finishing touches, and we expect a ribbon cutting to take place on June 21st. And while that's not something I aspire to do, there's been a tremendous amount of community input on that project. So we thank the community for that. Auburn Community Hospital has been hard at work, and while these are not city-specific projects, they're projects that impact the community and have a positive overall outcome in everybody in the community and our neighbors. So we're happy to announce that, as you probably well know, the Cancer Center at Auburn Community Hospital, will be opening soon, and it's a great addition for the health and welfare of our residents, but it's also a nice addition to the gateway to the city of Auburn as you come in from the north, a nice modern building on North Street. And last week, several of us here attended another ribbon cutting at Auburn Community Hospital, and that was for a blood testing system, an automated blood testing system, which is the first of its kind in the nation, right here in Auburn, New York, that will help the Cancer Center and some of the other laboratory needs in the community to expedite blood testing and get results back to the community. And Auburn City Ambulance certainly has been a topic of conversation throughout the last couple of years. It was a project that was undertaken a couple of years ago at a time that was critical in our community. But if you look across New York State, we are no different than any other community. This is a struggle that is happening across the state and across the nation, is dealing with pre-hospital emergency medical transportation. So we're proud to say that Auburn City Ambulance was stood up a few years ago. It continues to evolve. Our ambulance service is now Central New York EMS. It's regionally accredited as a rapid sequence intubation agency. It's also a field training site for EMS and healthcare students from 7 area education programs, including Cayuga County EMS, Auburn Fire Department, SUNY Upstate, Finger Lakes Community College, and BOCES. They are also a training site for the American Heart Association for CPR, advanced cardiac life support, and pediatric life support courses. One of the more notable things that has happened in the last year is that on December 31st of 2023, the agency that had long provided ambulance service for Cayuga County, the private agency, pulled out of Cayuga County. And the remaining agencies have had to step up to fill that gap. And that's been a collaborative effort from a lot of different agencies, especially here in the center of the county where the majority of the population resides. The impact on Auburn City Ambulance has been an increase in call volume of almost 30%. So we expect our call volume from approximately 7,000 per year last year to increase to in excess of 10,000 calls for service this year. So we continue to evolve with that service. That is also just so you're aware of the connection between Auburn City Ambulance and Auburn Community Hospital. About 9% of our calls for service are directly related to servicing patients that are at Auburn Community Hospital that need to be transferred to other higher level care facilities. The Auburn Police Department has been undergoing a process for accreditation for a number of years, and this year they finally wrapped that up and received their certification as an accredited New York State Police Department, which is great. It's been a lot of work that's crossed a few administrations, or a couple of administrations with the police department, as well as city council. A lot of work goes into this. This is really enables the department to make sure it's providing the highest level of service to the community and to the officers involved. The police department also received a grant this year for gun-involved violence elimination. It's referred to as a GIVE initiative. And that allows the police department to target their efforts on specific areas where there are high levels of crime and assaults and violent activity. So that's been a very successful program, and we are looking forward to another year of grant funding for that and a good community impact. Next up, Mayor talked about our water situation. And, you know, with all the things going on in the watershed, we always are keeping an eye on that. But our first order of business and most immediate is making sure that our water filtration processes are up to snuff and able to do the job we need to do to provide clean drinking water to the city of Auburn and our neighboring communities on a daily basis. So our water filtration plant, which is shown here, resides on Swift Street. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's a very old facility. It's very old technology, but it's reliable, dependable, and does a very good job for over 100 years. That facility is being upgraded as we speak. It's about 80% done at this point. This is a $6 million project to upgrade not only the structure of the facility, but some of the internal controls and mechanicals. And this is a project that's grant funded to about the tune of about 60% of the total project cost. On the other end of the pipeline, our wastewater treatment plant is important because we want to make sure we're good neighbors to everybody downstream from us and making sure that we provide the most efficient and safe treatment for the sewage in the city of Auburn and, again, our neighbors in the surrounding towns. So this year we kicked off a major improvement project for the wastewater treatment plant. This is an $84 million project. It's $84 million project. $34 million was grant funded. About $25 million of this is 0% interest loans, and that leaves us with a remaining about $25 million in low interest financing through state EFC. Again, this is going to be a multi-year project. It was started in the spring of 2023. At this point in time today, we're looking at about 20% completion, and this will allow us to treat the sewage from the city of Auburn, surrounding towns, and we also provide service to other municipalities that at times truck in waste because they can't treat certain types of waste. This will allow us to do all of those things. It provides for expansion of services in the future, and it allows us to treat waste in a way that produces a non-harmful byproduct in the end. And it'll improve our discharges into the Owasco River for all of our neighbors downstream and just make an overall better, healthier, and more efficient program. Back to parks. So Wall Street Park is next up on the list of park improvements. So this relatively small park down near the Aurelius Ave Bridge is slated for renovation. We've already had some public meetings on it. We expect the park design was completed in November of 23, and we expect some construction to begin late spring, early summer. We have a city court expansion project that most of you may not know, but this has been a project that's been discussed for approximately 10 years. The New York State Office of Court Administration has been a persistent advocate, I think that's the way to say it nicely, advocate for us to expand our court space in the building that is owned by Cayuga County. So this project is finally moving along, much to the pleasure of our representatives from the New York State Office of Court Administration. It's a $3 million project and will increase the space and modernize our city court operation. You may have heard about our Lake Ave Bridge Rehabilitation Project, one of the more traveled bridges in the city of Auburn. We are hoping that this bridge project, once we complete securing all of the funding that's necessary for it, will extend the service life of that bridge for another 25 years. We expect the final documents for this bridge project to come back in June. We need to secure some gap funding for this right at the moment, but we're hoping that construction begins in spring of 2025. And we are very aware that this is going to be a major inconvenience for folks in the city of Auburn and traveling through the city of Auburn. And we're working hard to try to reduce that impact. Speaking of impacts to your ride through the city of Auburn, we're currently also working with New York State on a major rehabilitation project for the arterial from Standard Ave to the city line at 5 and 20 and Route 326, or Veterans Memorial Parkway. This project is slated to take place in 2025, and again, our engineering and planning departments are working with New York State DOT to try to figure out all of the things. So this won't be just a resurface. We expect the storm sewer systems to be upgraded, some of the rights-of-way, sidewalks, pedestrian access, things like that. And for those of you that don't like waiting at the traffic signals, upgrades to the traffic signals, which hopefully will make that travel through the city go a little smoother. I wanted to keep this going and just hit on the highlights, so I wanted to just do that, and I hesitate to do that because I always feel like we leave important people out. So with that, just want to make sure to thank all of our departments and the dedicated staff who work hard every day, a lot of times behind the scenes, to take care of stuff that we all kind of take for granted. It's just everyday stuff, and you don't realize when you turn on the tap, your faucet, whatever, how much work goes into providing that water and getting that water from the source through the filtration plant to your kitchen sink and then back out the door again every day, and taking care of the trash and taking care of the roads and things like that, which hopefully you had a good experience on your way here this morning. We can't take care of everything. We can't make it perfect out there, but I know our folks are hard at work doing that. So thank them. And at this point, thanks again for your patience. And I'd like to turn things over to our Cayuga County Legislative Chairwoman, Aileen McNabb Coleman.
Boy, I really cannot see anyone. My son is performing tonight in a play. It's his first play. And so I'm on stage today and he's on stage today. Now I can tell him, wow, you can't see anything when you're looking out. So I'll have that perspective. When I'm in the audience waving, he won't see me. I know he'll not be ignoring me. So, well, good morning. I'm Aileen McNabb Coleman, Chairperson of the Cayuga County Legislature. I want to begin by thanking the Cayuga County Chamber and their Executive Director, Amy Fuller, for inviting us to participate in this event. I'd like to thank the leadership and the staff of Auburn Public Theater for all they do with this impressive establishment. I want to say thank you to all of you for attending today. The theme for this presentation is Restructure and Renewal for Change and Opportunity. The region is changing, and with that change will come challenges and opportunities. County government needs to adapt to the changes, be ready to meet the changing needs of our communities and residents, and position the county to secure emerging opportunities for growth and renewal. This is the current state of Cayuga County, and I'm very excited about it. This brief presentation will highlight 4 major areas: changes to county government structure and operations, renovation of county facilities, reimagining our county parks and public spaces to enhance our quality of life, and rethinking and reinvesting in countywide economic development to help our existing businesses grow and attract new businesses to choose Cayuga County as their home. The Cayuga County Legislature looked to downsize as a result of the 2020 census. Residents voted in favor of this change, which resulted in 2024. We went from 15 to 11 legislators. Outside the city of Auburn, the number of legislative districts reduced from 9 to 7, and inside the city, the number of legislative districts reduced from 6 to 4. And next, I would like to introduce you to the legislature. So you'll see all 11 here, and I wanted to point out the folks who are here today. I believe Legislator Nightingale is here, Legislator DeVito, and maybe Legislator Wilson, I believe, is here today. So thank you for coming. This change in number of legislators not only means a change in the number of people representing you, but it also lends itself to other changes. As I stated, there was a shift from 15 to 11, which means more accountability, and everyone's required to pitch in and carry the load of responsibility for county government. Consolidation of committees. We combined a couple committees in our committee structure and went from 7 committees to 5. We also changed the time of day to meet for some of those committees. We made it earlier in the day, which is actually very favorable for our department heads, which is really great so far. Until there's a desire to resume half the legislature on staggered terms, which means elections every 2 years from even or odd number districts, the legislative 4-year terms will continue as it stands today until the legislature takes an action. So as it stands today, though, this group will remain together for 4 years. I want to welcome the newly elected legislators. We have Jonathan Anna from Sterling, Ben Vitale from Montezuma, Tom Winslow from Weedsport, and Stephanie DeVito from Auburn. So while myself and my colleagues oversee the county policy and budget, I want to talk to you a little bit more about our operations. So with this change also comes opportunity to add to the county operations management team. We've already made changes to the operations side of county government. There are 31 reports to the county legislature. That's a lot of departments. The Board of Elections, DMV, 911, Mental Health Clinic, Sheriff's Department, Parks and Trails, and Social Services are only 7 of those departments. County government is very large, and it's a complex organization. We ensure the highest level of service delivery to the residents of this county. Speaking of delivering services, I've chosen the picture above to take a moment to mention that our Office for the Aging oversees Meals on Wheels. This daily service is provided by volunteers and is vital to our aging residents. Sometimes it's the friendly face and social interactions that people wait for, not so much the nourishment provided. If you do have an opportunity in your schedule, or you know somebody in your life who is looking for volunteer opportunities, please reach out. You can email meals@cayugacounty.us, or you can look on our website to find out some more information. So please keep that in the back of your mind. Over the past year, we've welcomed new department heads. In our parole department, we welcomed Tyrone Thomas. We have a new auditor, Angela Skellington. Our grants manager is John Evans. County attorney as of Tuesday. We appointed Fred Westfall. Planning director is Carrie Terwilliger. And I also had the pleasure of onboarding a new county manager, which is Steve Lynch. And Steve, if you could please stand. Over many years, the Cayuga County Legislature has very publicly wrestled with a form of government that they can accept, and one that would result in highly effective service delivery for our residents. Our history tells us that we employed a county manager, many administrators, and allowed the county chair to oversee all aspects of county government. I sat in that role for 2 years, in 2020 and 2021. I didn't have anyone in charge of operations. I can tell you firsthand that was not a great idea. That was immense, immense responsibility to be placed on one person's shoulders, and it's just not responsible. Many of the actions have resulted in, of the legislature and some of the talks about form of government and in some of our experience have resulted in a high level of distraction and a less effective form of government. It was very important to me and the legislature that we invested in various ideas of leadership and carefully outlined a structure that can proactively support department heads and employees, oversee day-to-day operations and services. We landed on county manager, and the right person for the job was our own planning director, Steve Lynch. Now, last year you met our county operations officer, Shireen Andrasco, and Shireen is here. Could you please stand up? Shireen continues to serve as the county's operations officer, and together, Shireen and Steve make the operations team. Thank you, both of you. I had the experience of not working with support staff. This is life-changing to the county, to the community, to the residents, so I want to thank you both. I'm very excited to work with you. The legislature continues to oversee the county, but now I can emphasize my focus on policy and budget, while the day-to-day needs can be addressed successfully and proactively, yes, I said that again, by this team. So far, so great. Thank you so much. As we've discussed, and it was already presented, about changes to county government structure, I'm going to embark on some renovations to county facilities and parks. I'll begin with our historic post office. It's located across the street from the county office building and the courthouse. And in collaboration with the city of Auburn, and while maintaining a historic community landmark, we're renovating our space for the needs for city court. And so we've, as Manager Dygert mentioned, it has been tossed around for several years, so we're excited that this is finally underway. In my first weeks as chair, I noticed, the roof happened, but then in my first weeks, as chair in 2020, prior to the pandemic, I noticed many public guests entering, accessing the 6th floor, like throughout the day. Many with mobility needs and many with young children. So after a few weeks, I inquired with the clerk of the legislature, Sheila Smith, about the traffic, just the general foot traffic on the 6th floor. It seemed very unusual. It was then that I learned that the only ADA accessible bathroom with a child changing station was tucked behind the chambers on the 6th floor. We have hundreds of members of the public that access our building daily, and to think that that was the only accessible bathroom it really hit me. I had no idea before that. Then I learned that our new mothers in our workforce didn't have adequate nursing or pumping rooms. All of the floors except the 6th floor needs asbestos abatement. So you can't disrupt a floor tile or other areas of the floors without worrying about asbestos. The plumbing and electrical require updating. Our elevators are commonly out of service. Funny story, I stopped at the county this morning to print out my notes, which is why I'm reading here. And I went to get on the elevator, and with 2 other women, the doors closed, they opened, they closed, they opened. We screamed, jumped out. I grabbed my laptop and came here. After I put a sign on the door and called the buildings on the way, called Shireen, we're good. Hopefully no one is stuck inside, which is commonly happens at the county. Shireen and I often joke, you have to have a full bottle of water and your cell phone if you're going to take a ride in the elevator. So it's a problem. So it is time for us to finally address this. This is another thing that's been kicked around for several years. So we're now investing in our primary service delivery facility for now and the future needs of residents in the county workforce. Our potential timeline is securing architects in the 2nd quarter of 2024. Design will commence from September to the end of the year, and potential construction we're hoping to begin in the 2nd quarter of 2025. So we're very excited about getting this work going. I'm going to invite Steve Lynch to come on up and talk to us about revitalization and some growth opportunities.
Well, good morning. Continuing on for Renewal for Growth, we all know that working with our communities to help them revitalize and grow is a county priority, and it's a key component in fostering economic development and private sector investment. And I think work out in the county complements the progress that was highlighted today by the mayor and the city manager and the city staff in the city of Auburn. County planning staff has been instrumental in taking on this rewarding work, and I want to share a few recent successes. After completing a new comprehensive plan for the village of Moravia, staff worked with village leaders, the business community, and residents in 2022 to prepare a New York Forward grant application. It's like a small DRI for smaller communities. In early 23, the New York State Department of State announced a $2.25 million grant award to the village to implement their vision for downtown revitalization, with over 24 projects to implement their vision for downtown revitalization. And a few exciting examples are shown here, two on Main Street, one right behind Main Street, a public park. And staff is continuing to work with the village to advance their New York Forward grant, and will be working with the village to update their zoning ordinance in order to make it much easier to develop in the village. The successful 2022 New York Forward grant for the village of Moravia was followed in 2023 with a combined application under New York's Downtown Revitalization Initiative, or DRI, to realize the combined vision for community renewal put forth by the Cayuga Lake shoreline villages of Aurora, Union Springs, and Cayuga. That was spearheaded by Carrie Terwilliger, the new planning director for Cayuga County. And I know that Jim Orman is here, and the mayor of Aurora, who with his other mayors was very instrumental in moving this forward. Next slide. Presented as Cayuga County's quaint lakeside village corridor, this shoreline village corridor is unmatched not only around Cayuga Lake, but on any Finger Lake as well. Nowhere else in the combined Central New York and Finger Lakes region are there 3 lakefront villages so close together along a shared scenic byway corridor. Next slide. The area is so special that there isn't just one New York State scenic byway, but 2 that run right through the heart of these villages, linking their past, present, and future together. By leveraging the strengths and unparalleled public direct access to Cayuga Lake, workable neighborhoods, a diverse mix of retail, cultural, and recreational offerings, Wells College, and a wide range of lodging options in the village of Cayuga. In Aurora, the villages of Cayuga, Union Springs, and Aurora are now working together to provide a premier tourism destination and experience while ensuring that the community continues to be a place that people are proud to call home. In February, Governor Hochul came to Syracuse to announce the regional DRI winners, and noting the uniqueness of our 3-village collaboration, announced a $10 million DRI award for those villages collectively. That's great news. The County Planning Department is now working closely with the 3 villages and the New York State Department of State team to roll out the grant program and bring the combined community vision to reality. So this is great news for the Cayuga Lake shoreline. Next, I wanted to highlight another shoreline success in Cayuga County. Reimagining our parks and public spaces for community quality of life for residents, and it's important for attracting new residents and businesses, and it's a priority of Cayuga County. This May, with the spring weather in full swing, I hope, the state and the county will hold a ribbon cutting and grand opening for the new Welcome Center at the Sterling Nature Center. Designed by local architects Beardsley Design Associates and located on the 1,400-acre preserve on a bluff overlooking nearly 2 miles of Lake Ontario shoreline, this stunning $4.5 million Welcome Center represents a collaborative investment by the state, by Cayuga County, and the Friends of the Sterling Nature Center. It represents what can be accomplished when careful planning and pre-development work sets the stage for opportunity and investment. We can do more of work like this. We just have to work together and be ready to take the opportunities when they come. Please go up and visit this place. Before we leave the Lake Ontario shoreline, I want to highlight the pending Lake Ontario National Marine Sanctuary. I don't know if everybody's heard about this, but this is pretty big news. In January of 2017, the city of Oswego and the 4 counties of Oswego, Cayuga, Jefferson, and Wayne, with support from the governor, submitted a nomination for the proposed Great Lake Ontario National Marine Sanctuary to be added to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, inventory for potential designation. The proposed underwater park will encompass over 1,700 square miles of eastern Lake Ontario waters and bottomlands adjacent to the 4 counties, and the anticipated congressional approval this year, it will become the 16th National Marine Sanctuary in the federal system and the 2nd sanctuary within the Great Lakes. The other one is in Michigan at Thunder Bay. New York nominated the area to protect and increase awareness of a nationally significant collection of shipwrecks. There's one of them over there on the right. To foster partnerships with education and research groups, and to increase opportunities for tourism and recreation as part of the regional blue economy. Now, there are more parks to talk about and more initiatives to talk about, and I'm going to welcome Aileen back up to the podium to complete the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, there it is. So I will cover Emerson Park and the Owasco waterfront. We're beginning our Emerson Park upgrades with Deauville Island. We've invested in upgrades you cannot see over the past few years with water and sewer infrastructure on the island and in the park in general. Later this season, you'll see the largest shelter on the island being built. It has a new design. It will set the stage for the renewed look of Emerson Park. And continued upgrades will be occurring. The funding provided for the shelter specifically was half funded by Cayuga County and half is a New York State grant. So we're consistently and constantly applying for funding opportunities and seeking funding and sponsorships for the above features. The open air concert and event venue, a restroom and concessions facility, event pavilion and rental shelters, floating docks for lakefront access, and multi-use destination playground. So we're very excited to kind of step off the curb and get involved with this project. You may have attended a Thursday night concert at Deauville Island over the course of the past 2 summers. The Friends of Emerson Park, otherwise known as the FOES, which is a great name, is a voluntary community group enriching community activities, fostering environmental engagement, and supporting Emerson Park. In addition to their epic concert series, the FOES group is holding their 3rd annual Easter egg hunt on Saturday, March 30th at 9:30 a.m. Hopefully there won't be any snow. They will be advertising a return of family movie nights and various community fundraising opportunities. The county is thankful to this robust organization for helping us actualize our plans and breathe new life into Emerson Park. So I want to end my presentation by inviting the mayor up with me for the last part. Thanks for doing that. I'm very excited about the collaboration between the City of Auburn and Cayuga County just since January of this year. I think we're going to crack the code on collaboration. I think that it's something that's been talked about over several years, but I did rarely see it in practice. I think that everyone has generally always gotten along, but have we dug in and done some work? I'm not sure that's really happened, so I'm really excited about this. I've been to City Hall more times since January than I have over the past several years. Jimmy has been to the county office building more times than probably your entire time being councilman.
They actually let me in now.
Oh, I love it. Our staff has worked together and shared ideas and vision as well. So together, we've been to different businesses also. We've heard their needs and try to understand their concerns. We're both attending economic development meetings, such as the Regional Economic Development Council. And staff from the city and county are members now of the Regional Planning and Economic Development Board. So there are established and continued committees to address tremendous opportunities that Micron is bringing to our county. These 4 working groups consist of county staff, city staff, community leaders, and stakeholders to address energy, housing, workforce development, and site selection for secondary and tertiary Micron-related businesses, but also for existing businesses and their expansions and their continued investment right here in Cayuga County. So speaking of economic development, which is why a lot of the reason why you're up here, I actually have a lot of the same language you use, which just proves how closely we've been working together. We're in a time in an area of great collaboration and focus on our own economic development vehicle. From county to regional to state, Mayor Genentino and I just call you Mayor Jimmy.
It's hard
I'm just
for
going to call you
Irish
Jimmy.
people to say that.
Mayor Jimmy and I are clearly communicating, not only with our words, but through our actions, that we are in lockstep about economic development, and it's getting noticed. Currently, the Cayuga Economic Development Agency is undergoing a 360 review to assess its mission, its value, and its brand, both internally and within the community. In the coming weeks, after the board has received their feedback, we will assess and evaluate our options. We are committed together to a one-stop, one number to call, one organization for businesses to rely on for resources. One organization that we together can rely on for attraction, retention, growth of existing businesses in Cayuga County. So we are standing in a pivotal time in our county and city's history. The mayor and I feel strongly that we have one shot to get this right, which is exactly the words that you used. We're in an era of restructuring and renewal. Many new projects are being planned while we are still seeing the fruits of our labor coming to life through new leadership, new partnerships, new structures, new experiences to enhance and improve the quality of life and to make Cayuga County, including the city, the villages, and the towns, the best it can be. So I want to thank you publicly for your partnership, and I also want to thank everyone for attending today. Thanks so much. Thank you.